Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Flyer Up Podcast, episode 13. I am your host, Amadeo Gracia, along with my partner, Chris Mayer. And the Flyers actually won two games actually right here. And it's a good stretch right now, 7 points in their last 4 games. So they got seven out of a possible 8 points so far. So that's pretty good. And I would say the last two showcasings against the Carolina Hurricanes and the Montreal Canadiens, Carolina Flyers kind of got outplayed for majority of the game until the third period, where they absolutely brought out an onslaught against the Hurricanes, but they managed to win that game because of Carter Hart and them finally waking up in the third period. Montreal, though, Flyers, I would say, dominated pretty much throughout the entire game. It was Carey Price that was keeping Montreal within the entire game, which allowed Montreal to tie it. But the Flyers managed to win that game in the overtime. Funny enough that Carey Price was having a really dominant game, but he has like a very soft goal let up in the overtime for the Flyers to win. So I wouldn't say it's karma right there, but it's kind of ironic that how good he was playing to allow that soft of a goal in the overtime. But hey, the Flyers will take it. So that is, like I said, 7 out of a possible 8 points with the shootout win against the Devils on Friday, the shootout loss to the Toronto Maple Leafs actually on Saturday, and these 2 wins against the Carolina Hurricanes and the Montreal Canadiens. So, Chris, what are your thoughts on this good stretch here by the Flyers?
Well, after Tuesday's game, I said on Twitter if they can put that third period effort they gave against Carolina into Montreal's game, and in the full 60 minutes, they should be just fine. They got the 2 points. I thought they played better, honestly. They obviously played better in the Montreal game because it was a full all-around game. But I think it's more enjoyable when like you see 2 really good third period teams like in Carolina and the Flyers. They come out and the Flyers get that early goal from Konechny. They played very well after that. Farabee, I thought he was one of the best players in that game. Carter Hart, Matt Niskanen had a phenomenal game as well. And for the Montreal game, Phil Myers, he looked great. Carter Hart, again, he's played very well since, that kind of stint where he didn't look too good.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of good things from the Flyers these last 2 games, and they got a pretty tough task this weekend.
Oh, yeah, definitely. It's a scary weekend coming up for the Flyers. A game tomorrow night against the Toronto Maple Leafs, a rematch from last Saturday's shootout loss. And this Sunday at night, they face a very tough powerhouse in the Boston Bruins, coming off of that Game 7 loss in the Stanley Cup Final to the St. Louis Blues. They have started the season off red hot. Guys like David Pastrnak just playing incredible hockey right now, scoring a ton of goals, and Tuukka Rask just picking up where he left off from last season's playoffs. Boston is a scary team right now. Toronto, I do think they are a beatable team. They have, I wouldn't say struggle coming out of the gate, but they haven't played up to what they could possibly be. And that's why I think the Flyers can go into Toronto and possibly get a win, because they did match up to Toronto well on last Saturday. They just couldn't finish it out and get that extra second point. But I do believe that if they go in Toronto this Saturday, I feel like they can actually work it out and get 2 points out of this game. But Boston, that's going to be a more difficult task.
Yeah.
And I'm not sure what to expect with that Boston game. Who knows? Because I think we said that before we started this. Wasn't Detroit beating Boston so far today? I think those two are playing.
Boston just lost to Detroit 4-2.
Oh,
so
boy.
now they're now 11-3-2 on the season with 24 points. They lead the Atlantic, and behind them is,
I think it's Toronto.
it's either Toronto or Buffalo. Actually, Buffalo.
It is right
now.
No,
it's Toronto. Actually, my bad. Yeah,
it's Toronto with 21 points. Buffalo is a point behind them with 20. Yeah, that Atlantic division is like every team. I would say from second to fifth place, that each team is behind each other by in total 2 points.
Yeah, it goes Boston with 24, Toronto 21, Buffalo with 20, the Panthers and the Canadiens both have 19, and then Tampa has 16, Senators have 11, and the Red Wings are all the way at the bottom with 9. And the Flyers division is pretty tight as well. Flyers are 5 points behind second place. They're 9 behind first with 8. The Flyers have 18 points. They're 8-5-2. They are 1 point behind third place, the Penguins. They have 19. Hurricanes have 19. The Rangers are behind the Flyers. They have 16. The Rangers have 15. And then the Blue Jackets have 15. Devils have 12. And then the Islanders, who just lost last night to the Penguins in overtime. That was their first overtime loss of the season. And the Capitals, they're 12-2-3. And what did you say they were? What did you say that they are on the road? 8-1-1.
Yes, Washington is 8-1-1. And going back to what you said about the New York Islanders losing to the Pittsburgh Penguins, that snapped a 10-game winning streak for the Islanders.
Right. And the Islanders had a 3-0 lead.
Yeah, Islanders have been playing really, and like we discussed even before this, like how well the Islanders are just playing, even though that they don't have that, I would say, elite type of player, that like superstar player. But it just proves that Barry Trotz's system can bring a bunch of good NHL players and make them play really good and make them work really well together. And that's what the Islanders are.
The Islanders don't have an Alexander Ovechkin or a Crosby McDavid, an Eric Carlson or Brent Burns. They don't have that. They have just guys that are all relatively pretty good. I mean, Barzal, Anders Lee, Nelson, and there's a few others. They together as a whole group, they play pretty well. Their defense, it doesn't look too good on paper, but on the ice, it's pretty good. And the goaltending is good as well.
Yeah, no one would expect a guy like Tomas Greiss to be a good goaltender.
He's been a borderline backup for a majority of his career until he went to the Islanders.
Yeah, until Barry Trotz came in, Robin Lehner.
Right.
Greiss has became like one of the best like duo tandem goaltenders in the league.
Yeah, that's true.
When him and Lehner split the Jennings Trophy last season, those two have just been, even though like Lehner's not on the team anymore now, it's Varlamov, but Greiss is still playing like really good.
Yeah. And Lehner isn't doing too bad in Chicago. He's not doing, his numbers aren't the same because the team in front of him isn't that good, Chicago.
Mm-hmm.
They haven't been playing that good of hockey right now. They're in sixth place with 13 points. They're 5-7-3. They're only 2 points ahead of the Wild with 11. And the Avalanche, they're kind of starting to fall off a little bit here.
I wouldn't expect that because they scored literally like 6 goals in 8 minutes yesterday against the Nashville Predators. I wouldn't expect that.
I know that, but they were, I think, 8-1-1. They're now 9-5-2, and they've lost the last 2 games. They lost. I think they were losing against. Yes, so they lost to the Stars, Coyotes, Stars, and Panthers, and the Ducks. So they went on a 5-game losing streak, and then they won 9-4 last night versus Nashville.
And didn't Nathan McKinnon get hurt in last night's game too? I think he said he got like banged up. I'm not sure if it's like a lengthy injury, but I think it's like a day-to-day thing. But I'm not. I think it said something like McKinnon got hurt yesterday, so that might be affecting them as well. And also Rantanen's hurt too, so that could be affecting the team as well.
Yeah, and so is Landeskog as well. He's out. That's the thing. Like, I follow a few Avalanche fans on Instagram. They were like, "We just need Rantanen and Landeskog back."
Yeah,
because it's just those two are the main reasons why they're that good.
Yeah.
So
that line of McKinnon, Rantanen, and Landeskog was one of the best lines in the NHL last year.
Yeah. So from this article on Sportsnet, it said he suffered an injury in a win over the Predators. It looked like it was an upper body injury. They said he's expected to play on Saturday night. So tomorrow night, he's expected to play, and the Avalanche. They take on the Blue Jackets at 9:00.
Maybe that'll be an easy win for the Columbus. Not Columbus. Easy win for Colorado, but can't predict anything because the NHL is unpredictable. But
definitely
going off of this the little like injury banged up topic, but I wouldn't go banged up right now because this is like pretty recent for the Philadelphia Flyers. I was gonna touch into this later in the podcast, but this is like big news because it's like you feel bad for the guy. Samuel Morin, who was just recently sent down like a week or two ago, he re-tore his ACL in the same leg that he tore it last time.
And he's out for the season.
Yes, he is out for the season, and you just gotta feel bad for this guy. He just can't.
He can't. He's honestly stole ours on defense with the injuries. Just exactly what you said. You have to feel bad for the guy. There's really no other way to put it. He's put a tremendous amount of effort in to get himself back to 100%. With the amount of times that he's probably played games in Lehigh Valley where he probably should have played for the Flyers is just ridiculous.
Yeah.
And honestly, I think his career with the Flyers might be over.
Oh yeah, it's definitely coming probably closer to an end with the rate that he injures himself with, and just like he can never crack the team or he can never stay up at a consistent rate.
Yeah.
It's it's either he needs a change of scenery to a team that'll actually like let him
Right.
play, but you just
Yeah.
it just you got to feel bad for the guy, and like
Exactly.
hopefully like if it's with the Flyers or if it's with another team and he manages to play an NHL season, I hope he gets nominated for the Masterton Trophy just for his dedication of getting back into the game after tearing hit the same ACL twice.
Right.
It's just like that'll be a good story to
I
see.
mean, the
But
fact that he can even walk, if he's even able to walk after he recovers from this, that's just insane because it's just I just don't get it how they're able to do all that. Like especially like some football players, they'll tear their ACL like 2 or 3 times and they're able to walk. I'm like, how is that even possible?
yeah, I don't know. For Sam Morin, I am praying for you. I feel so bad for you that you have happened. This has happened to you again.
Yeah.
You deserve a lot better. I wish you got a chance to play in the NHL much more consistently, but I guess some luck just hits us the worst. And Samuel Morin, the hockey gods just don't appreciate him right now. It's just
That's
the hockey gods are just like they just dropped the ball on him.
oh yeah.
So good luck to Samuel Morin. Hopefully he has a nice speedy recovery with his rehab and just recovering from his ACL. Hopefully that all goes well. But let's get back into the topics at hand, which is the past two games, the Philadelphia Flyers against the Carolina Hurricanes. We are going to start with the Flyers win this game by a score of 4-1. And as we described earlier, Carolina was basically in control of this game, I would say, for 2 periods. It was Carter Hart keeping the Flyers within the game, even though the Flyers they didn't generate that many chances, but they scored on the one chance they got early on in this game, and that was from an early power play. It's Sean Couturier tipping the puck in off of a shot from Matt Niskanen from the point, making it a 1-0 Flyers lead in Sean Couturier's fourth goal in the season. So the Flyers get the early goal, but Carolina, it looks like they are in control of this entire first period. Carter Hart is keeping them off the scoreboard and keeping the Flyers at a 1-0 lead. And he's basically doing this through 2 periods so far. But I I would say this going into the second period where Carolina scored their goal, I wouldn't say it's completely Carter Hart's fault because he's keeping you in the game from this point.
Right.
And this is the only goal that Carolina would score. It's Lucas Wallmark, his second of the season. And this was a nice play by Carolina too. It was a nice pass from Trevor Van Riemsdyk over to Wallmark, and he just buried it into the open net. Can't really
Yeah.
blame Carter Hart right there. It's just sort of a defensive breakdown. I would say it's a bad play from Gostisbehere and Braun not covering the guys. It was basically left for Kevin Hayes to cover him, and he really
You think
couldn't do that.
you think there's any way that they should have challenged that? Because I mean, I think they had the case to at least throw the challenge up. Maybe
I
if they didn't win
I
it.
I know there was a chance at goaltender interference, but what Alain Vigneault said in his press conference after the game, it was like it was too close to him going out of his crease when the stick got knocked out of his blocker.
Yeah, that's true.
So, and it's like when you're at a 1-1 tie, if even if you try to review it, if it goes against you and it's still a 1-1 tie, you're going to get a
Right.
you're going to get a penalty. So, like,
Yeah,
why
and with
risk
all
that?
that momentum that they had, there was I didn't want them to challenge it, but then I saw it after. I figured, well, maybe they could have challenged it, and then I thought, well, all the momentum Carolina had, yeah, that was smart to not challenge it because that if they scored on it, that they would have just flew right off there, and they probably would have continued.
Oh yeah, I completely agree. And so that was a good call right there from Alain Vigneault, not challenging that play, not giving Carolina an extra boost going into the rest of the second period. So Carolina, they still have control throughout the second period, but Carter Hart manages to keep this game at a 1-1 tie going into three. And going into the third period, this is where the Flyers start to wake up. So with another early goal, and it's off of the stick of Travis Konechny. It's a shot from the point. It's a shot from Niskanen. It goes off of Lindblom, and it bounces off of Mrazek right onto the stick of Travis Konechny, and he just puts it into the open net. And Travis Konechny, with the season that he's having so far, it's just when you're going good, the puck is going to find your stick, and he was in the right place at the right time, where the puck just landed on the blade of his stick, and he buried it right into the open net. for the 2-1 Flyers lead for his 7th goal on the season. And just Travis Konecny is just like, I would say this is his breakout year right now. He's playing at an all-time high. He's playing at an elite level. And I love to see that. I love to see the chemistry between Lindblom, Couturier, and Konecny. All those guys. Couturier, I would honestly say, is helping out Lindblom and Konecny 1,000 times, because just the way these two are playing and the way those three look as a unit together, they have so much chemistry together, and they look fantastic together. And
yeah, it's been the best line all season.
Oh, definitely. And Alain Vigneault has stated that he's not going to touch this line unless something like terrible happens right now.
Yeah,
so this line's going to keep rolling. This line's going to keep rolling throughout majority of the season. I would seems so. Mm-hmm. So going into, I would say, a little over halfway into this third period, the Flyers are still in a lot of control of this third period. They are getting shots on Carolina. And I would say on the goaltending side for Carolina, Mrazek was playing good at the start, even though the Flyers didn't really generate that many chances. But I'm still not a big believer in Peter Mrazek just because we've seen him in a little stint with the Flyers. So even though he had a really good last year with Carolina, because it just felt like anyone that went to the Hurricanes last season played really good under Rod Brind'Amour. Just the whole bunch of jerks things. It just felt like everyone played good. But I'm still not a believer in Peter Mrazek, because he really hasn't shown he could be like what he was, I guess, his potential to be when he was with Detroit. So, like I said, not that big of a believer in Peter Mrazek. And, well, going back to the Flyers, actually, it's Joel Farabee a little over halfway into this third period. I love this play by Joel Farabee. It's Claude Giroux giving it over to him, and he drives the net. He comes from the left side, drives the net, and he stays with the puck going off of Peter Mrazek, and he manages to bury it backhand into the open net for a 3-1 Flyers lead, his second goal of the season. So Joel Farabee gets his second goal of the season, and he has been looking fantastic on that first line with Claude Giroux and James Van Riemsdyk.
Yeah, he's looked very good.
Can't get this kid any more credit. He looks like an absolute stud.
Right. And one thing I want to point out too, like before that rush even moved out of the defensive zone, he made a great play in the defensive zone. Completely broke up a goal. They had it at the point. I don't remember exactly who it was. They went to pass it down low, and Farabee tipped the pass. It went into the corner. He picked it up, skated through, kind of deflected, and then Giroux hit it over to him. Or it might have been Van Riemsdyk. I don't really necessarily recall who actually hit it to him.
I think it was Claude Giroux, because Giroux had the primary assist.
Yeah, that is true. But as I said, like that started in the defensive zone, carried out through, and it was a great play. And another thing I wanted to bring up about the first goal that Couturier scored on that deflection, Gostisbehere made so many great heads-up plays on that power play. If you go back and you watch that power play goal, it started really the main flurry of chances they had when it started with that Niskanen shot from where Voracek usually is, and that kind of got blocked, and it sat in the slot a little bit. Giroux would pass it back, and Gostisbehere gave Mrazek no time whatsoever to even get over and set for the shot. Completely powered it, gave him no time, gave the defenseman, any of the forwards on the penalty kill to even get in a spot to block the shot. Great play. That ended up getting blocked. Got the puck back, picked his head up, found whoever was open, got it to Giroux. He went down low into the corner, back up to Gostisbehere, picked his head up again, looked who was around, made the play over to Niskanen, and then Niskanen sent it to Couturier, and then he tipped it. It was a great play by Gostisbehere, and that's the things that I've been wanting to see from Gostisbehere on the power play all season, but he hasn't really done much of it. And if he can continue to do that, even on the second unit, that's going to be just fine, because Provorov has been very good on the first unit, and the power plays are going to really start to click.
I completely agree. Just all with Ghost, he needs confidence. That's all he needs. If he gets his confidence back, he'll be good.
To me, and that on that particular play, he had all the confidence in the world in that.
I completely agree. He needs to find a way to keep that confidence consistently.
Yeah, and that needs to be more on the defensive side of his game as well.
I agree. I completely agree. So going off of that Joel Farabee goal, and this is going like towards, I would say Carolina's about to pull Peter Mrazek. It's about like 2.5 to 3 minutes left in the third period. This is kind of a fluky play. I would say Carolina at this point in the game was getting a little too aggressive in the Flyer zone. There was 3 forwards pushing the net, and their defensemen were about to push up, and it's Tyler Pitlick and Phil Myers with a little nice passing play right there. Pitlick puts it up to Claude Giroux, who's way behind the defense. He gets a breakaway. He winds up for a slap shot. I think he was trying to fake out Peter Mrazek to open the 5-hole, and he does, and he just puts it right under the 5-hole to bury it for a 4-1 Flyers lead and his 4th goal in the season. So it's the one time where we decide to shoot on a breakaway / shootout, whatever, it goes into the damn net.
Of
So,
course.
and it's funny too, like every time I'm at a game and where the Flyers actually get a chance for a breakaway, it's never the guys like Claude Giroux. It's never Travis connecting.
It's always Scott Lawton or Lindblom or Raffle.
It's always Scott Lawton. It's always guys like Twarynski. It's always guys.
Right.
It's always the bottom 6 people. So it's finally you get to see guys like Claude Giroux get a damn breakaway and score off it. You get an actual guy on a breakaway. So he gets that breakaway goal to seal off the game. The Flyers win this game by a score of 4-1. Your 3 stars of the game were Carter Hart, Joel Farabee, and Travis Connecting. Shots in this game went to Carolina as a total of 34-28. And I would say the big story of this, Carolina took control, but Carter Hart was the main reason the Flyers were able to win this game as a whole. He kept them in for the first 2 periods, and the Flyers finally decided to wake up in that 3rd period and take control of the rest of the game. And Carolina, I'm not going to lie, they're a really good 3rd period team. They're one of the best in the league. The Flyers just played better.
The Flyers are up there, too, with one of the best 3rd period teams in the league.
Yeah.
Flyers haven't been good in the 1st period. In some games, they've been better, but majority of them, they haven't been good. 2nd period, they've scored a lot of goals. I'm going to rephrase that. They haven't really scored a lot of goals. They just had more chances and shots in the 2nd period. And then in the 3rd period, they've been getting the goals, and they've been coming out with the win. And the goaltending just continues through each and every period because they really haven't had, I'd say, inconsistent periods in goaltending. I don't know if you agree.
Yeah, I can agree. Sometimes there's instances where goaltenders don't play to where they can be.
Right. I mean, like around that stint where Carter Hart wasn't that great,
and
then that one game where Elliott was a little iffy, and I was starting to think, well, this is great because before that they played him a bunch of different games in a row, and then it was like he didn't have that good of a start against that comeback against Columbus, and it was like, okay, now I don't really want them to overuse Elliott. But then again, I'm like, now we need Hart to like wake out of this slump here because then at the time they just did not have that great of a goalie. And, honestly, like the goaltending, if it's been good, it's continued through the full 60 minutes.
Yes. And honestly, with Carter Hart, I feel like that's what we're going to see I wouldn't say the entire season. I feel like that's what we're going to see through this first stretch of the half of the season. Where he's going to have his good games and he's going to have his bad games. It's all about the learning curve.
Yeah,
it's all about the adjustments for him because he's still only 21. I'm not expecting this guy to be a Vezina caliber goaltender in his 2nd year in the league. Mm-hmm. He might get there, but he's not going to be there yet. Let the kid learn.
He's played 25 games. He played 9 this year and 16 last year.
I'm not going to be that typical Flyers fan that says, nope, Carter Hart has to be a Vezina caliber goaltender. Nope, he has to do it right now.
Yeah, Ivan Provorov is going to win the Norris. He's going to win. He's going to win.
Hey, the way Provorov's playing right now, he has 10 points right now in 15 games. Who knows? Because, Norris Trophy is all considered by points now, which I don't like.
Yeah, it's just like Giordano last year and how Carlson is already up there. Carlson's going to win the Norris because he has 23 points, which that's the thing I don't like about that, how they go by the fan voting and everything.
Mm-hmm.
I've never liked it. It's because it's going to be the fans that just look at the points and go, oh, I'm going to vote for this guy and for this guy. I hate it. I hate it. I wish they would do it by stats and defensive plays and all the other things that, you know what I mean? Like actual real hockey statistics, but like you could do regular and then you could do like a little bit more advanced and then really advanced. It's whatever you want to do.
It kind of reminds me of like the Selke a little bit because I'm not saying that this is going off of my bias, but it's also kind of a little biased because this is when Sean Couturier was nominated for the Selke between Bergeron and Kopitar. And that was the season Kopitar had like 90 plus points. So he had a really good season. And he still won the damn Selke.
Yeah. I didn't mean to cut you off there, but same thing with when Gostisbehere could have won the Calder. It was McDavid who was out for about 20 games, played really good in the ones he came back in, still won. And Gostisbehere had about...
No, it wasn't. McDavid didn't win the Calder. That was Panarin.
Oh, my bad. I meant to say Panarin.
The 28-year-old rookie.
Yeah,
Even though he wasn't 28, he was like
yeah.
23, I think.
That's my bad. I meant to say Panarin, but even still, because everyone was like, "Oh, it was going to be McDavid. It's going to be McDavid," and then Panarin ended up winning, and I'm thinking, Gostisbehere is a defenseman,
And he was nominated for.
and he was nominated with the amount. What did he have? Like 60 something points, 70 points as a defenseman.
No, in his rookie year, that was, I think he had like 40 to 50, but the way he played since coming up, because he was one of the main reasons the Flyers made the playoffs that year, and he also went on that like insanely long consecutive point streak or point games, whatever I think it is. I
Yeah,
think what was his point streak? Was it like 15 games point streak, or what was it?
it
I
was
forget how.
16, I think.
16-game point streak for Shane Gostisbehere in his rookie season. That was one of the main reasons he was nominated for the Calder.
I
One of the
think it
main
was
reasons.
16. I'm not 100%
We're probably
positive.
we're probably blowing it all out of proportion. It's probably smaller than that, but who knows? But hey,
No, I know it was over 10 because
yeah, it
that
was definitely over 10. Yes.
yeah, because it's I'm not gonna mix it up with um the 10-game win streak the year after,
Mm-hmm.
but like relatively Ghost has played good in the years he's played. If you go back to the points that his rookie year, I kind of did over exaggerate there. I mixed it up with a different year. He had 46, and then he had 39 the next season,
And
and
then he
then he
had like
had
60
then he
something.
had 65 in the 17-18 season when they got eliminated by Pittsburgh in the
Mm-hmm.
first round, and
Okay.
then the 18-19 season he had 37 points.
Okay. To confirm the point streak by Shane Gostisbehere in his rookie season, it was 15 games.
Ah,
He got his 15th consecutive game with a point in the overtime goal winner against Toronto. So it kind of reminded me too during that like season with Gostisbehere, like over the course of that point streak, it seems like every time he got like it's like as long as the streak got, it just felt like each and every other game he was like slowly getting away from a point. I remember like one game against the New York Rangers where they were getting shut out by Hendrik Lundqvist, and the Flyers scored with like the final 5 seconds on I think Braden Shen with an assist from Gostisbehere. It was
yeah,
like getting down to that low to be like,
yeah,
oh, when is this point streak gonna end? Because it's just getting that close every single game before it
yeah.
ends.
I mean, it's always good to see, and it's fun to like see every once in a while, especially with like the 10-game win streak they had. Like from
Oh, we
how that,
missed it didn't feel good because we missed the playoffs that year.
yeah, they had a 10-game win streak, and they went 1-8-1 in their next
Yes.
in their next 10,
Yeah,
and
what is momentum? It
yeah,
doesn't
really,
exist.
it's just like the Sabres last year, and
Yep.
oh my
Yeah,
god,
we have no room to judge because that happened to us.
right, and we were the first team to do it, so
Yep. That's a good little
ah,
Flyers history right there that we hate. So yeah,
yeah, the life of a Flyers fan.
yeah, the life of a Flyers fan. So so going back to the Carolina game, it was a good game. I wouldn't say it was a great game, but it was a good game because of that third period in the way Carter Hart played, keeping us in it throughout the entire thing. So good game by the Flyers. During that game, it was a 5 straight points out of a possible 6. So it was points in 3 straight games for them so far right there. And then before we get into this Montreal Canadiens game, which was really exciting and on an entertainment value was really good because of guys like Carey Price and just the Flyers overall outplaying Montreal, I would say. So entertainment value times 100, I would say. So before we get into that game, let's pause for a little bit to hear a word from our sponsor.
Hi, I'm Mark, and I'm one of the hosts of Massive Late Fee. Do you remember Blockbuster? Well, we do, and we racked up a lot of late fees there. That's why we're glad there's things like Netflix, Hulu, and Blockbuster has died, mostly because of us. We cover streaming shows and pretty much whatever we want. Join us every Thursday as we talk TV and movies on Massive Late Fee. You can find us at Massive Late Fee on Twitter, Massive Late Fee on Facebook. You can email the show at massivelatefee@gmail.com, and you can find us at MySpace, Massive Late Fee. Massive Late Fee, the best podcast we can think of.
And welcome back to the Fired Up Podcast. So let's get into this Montreal Canadiens game. Chris, I know that you really didn't have a chance to go over this game, so I'll do all the talking for you. So don't worry about the talking right now.
That's all right.
So the Flyers, I would say they were the better team throughout the majority of this game. They win this game by a score of 3-2 in the overtime. But the major stories from this game One is that the Flyers did outplay the Montreal Canadiens for majority of this game. I would say for around like 50 to 55 minutes. But the other main story in this game was Carey Price. Carey Price was amazing in this game. He was just flat out great. He stopped 40 out of 43 shots. Carey Price was just that good, and the main reason why Montreal was in the game to begin with. So, like I said, the Flyers, they got off to a hot start. Just insanely hot start. They were getting chances on Montreal. Travis Konecny had a breakaway. Carey Price made a really nice glove save on that. Just, we had power plays. The refs, honestly, in this game were in favor of the Flyers. Montreal had no power plays in this game. Flyers had 6. And Flyers scored on none of their power plays, actually. So, yeah.
Oh, my God.
There you go. So, that's also another reason why this game was so close, because the Flyers couldn't cash in on a damn power play. So, I would say a little over halfway through this first period, this is off, I would say, a bouncing puck in the Montreal zone. Phil Myers takes the puck from the point. He's kind of skating to the point, then releases the shot. So he skates to the blue line, takes the shot, and there's a couple screens in front of the net. It doesn't really deflect off anyone. It's kind of just Carey Price doesn't see this puck at all. It goes into the net for Phil Myers' first goal of the season to make it a 1-0 Flyers lead. And like I said, the Flyers were just in control of play throughout this period. They get a late power play going into the second, which carries over. And they don't score on this power play. Like I said, they haven't scored on any power play in this damn game. But just like right off this power play, it's around 49 seconds into the second period. It's James Van Riemsdyk off of a nice feeds from Jake Voracek and Claude Giroux. He puts it past Carey Price for a 2-0 Flyers lead. And this is where the Flyers start to get their stretches of power plays, and they don't score on them. And this is where I'm saying to myself, you have to cash in on one of these power plays, because you don't want to give Montreal any type of momentum coming back into this game. And also the way Carey Price has been playing, because he's basically giving his team a way to remain in this game and for them to get momentum to come back and possibly get a goal. And that's exactly what Montreal does. Flyers don't cash in on any of their power plays, and Montreal comes into the zone. It's, out of all people, Nick Cousins with one of the assists on this goal. He takes the shot. It goes off of Carter Hart, and this is just a bad rebound. It goes off of his chest and out into the slot, and it's Ben Chariot who buries it past Carter Hart for a 2-1 Flyers lead. And this is where Montreal is starting to gets a little momentum right here because of what Carey Price is doing and the Flyers not cashing in on their power plays. So it's a really bad rebound right there from Carter Hart. That's going to happen. Carter he's still in that learning curve. Like we said, he's only 21. So gives up a bad rebound and it results in a 2-1 Flyers lead right there. And like I said, Montreal is getting a little bit of the momentum. Flyers can't cash in past Carey Price just because of the way he's been playing this entire night. And that carries over into the third period. And this is early on, around like 4 minutes in. It's Shea Weber from the point just burying it past Carter Hart to tie the game at 2. And I would say after this goal, the Flyers did wake up a little bit because they're still getting power plays after this. And I'm not sure if this was before the Carson Twarynski penalty shot, but there was a penalty call in this game that was just like, if I were a Montreal fan, I would be very pissed at, because it was off of an icing. And I think Claude Julien was taking too long to put the right guys back onto the ice, because when you have an icing, you're not allowed to make a line change. So the people that got off to the bench have to come back onto the ice. And I don't think Julien was doing that. So I guess he was wasting so much time that the refs were just getting tired of what he was doing, and they called a delay of game on the Montreal Canadiens. So if I were a Montreal fan right there, I would have been very pissed because you didn't get a power play the entire night. So I felt bad for Montreal fans right there, but hey, the Flyers got a power play, but they still didn't score. And then Carson Twarynski, I would say, I think it was after one of these power plays, he gets a little mini breakaway chance, and he gets clipped off this breakaway. So he gets a penalty shot. And it's like I said, against the game versus the Carolina Hurricanes when Claude Giroux had that breakaway goal. It feels like every person that gets these chances are the guys that are on the bottom 6, the guys who aren't the goal scorers. And what do you know? It's Carson Twarynski and the damn penalty shot. And what does he do? He just skates up and takes a shot. He doesn't try to get Carey Price to move at all. He just takes a simple shot and Carey Price stops it. He sees that like bread and butter every day. It's what Carey Price is going to do. That was basically easy for him. So it's still tied 2-2. after three. The Flyers, I would say, controlled the rest of the third period. They were getting their chances. They just couldn't cash in. And like I said, not scoring on your power plays was also one of the main reasons why this game was still tied at 2. If the Flyers scored at least on 1 or 2 of those power plays, this game would have been sealed off already. So we go into overtime. And this is very early in the overtime. The Flyers had majority of the possession. There was only one shot in this overtime that went to the Flyers, and that was the goal because this is when Sean Couturier, Ivan Provorov, and Travis Konechny are on the ice. And it's Provorov to Konechny, who gets it over to Sean Couturier, who puts the shot on net. Price stops it at first, but then squeaks by his arm, and it trickles into the net. And the Flyers win this game by a score of 3-2. It's Sean Couturier's 5th goal of the season, and you just got to think, after the way Carey Price has been playing this entire game, he lets that goal in. After all the saves he has made, he lets that in. But hey, the Flyers will take it. They win this game by a score of 3-2, and in the past 4 games, that's 7 out of 8 total points. I will take that any day of the week. And the Flyers right now, their record is 8-5-2. That is a respectable record, and this is honestly one of their best starts, I would say, since the 2011-2012 season. It's just, honestly, this is, like, usually in past seasons, during the stretch of mediocrity for the Flyers, they have been pretty terrible starts. So seeing this, I would say, a little bit of an above average start, it's a pretty nice sight to see because we're not playing bad hockey. We're playing good hockey. There's just some games where we just can't finish, where we can't close it out. So
I mean, it's been an enjoyable first 2 months.
I would say so too.
I mean, since I started watching, you've obviously been watching a long more time than I have.
Mm-hmm.
But since I started, it's been bad starts.
Yes.
I think with the first year that I really got into it, they started 3-1.
Mm-hmm.
And that was around the time when they fired Laviolette.
Mm-hmm.
They brought in Berube, and then they ended up going to the playoffs.
Yes.
But, like, I mean, for years that I can remember, they've just always had bad starts. I mean, the year I had season tickets, they were very bad in the beginning of the season. They were like 5-1 until they got their first win. A couple years after that, they've always the years they've made the playoffs, they have to battle back into like one of the last few games of the year until they make the playoffs. Yes. I think the only year that they really didn't do that was the 17-18 season, and that was only because the division was so tight. It wasn't that because they actually played bad. It was just the division was really tight at the time, and you had if you were going to clinch, you had to do it when you had to do it right away. Right. It was either last day of the season or the teams who did it very early.
Yes.
So they've had maybe one season where I've said, okay, it's not that bad. But besides that, it's been enjoyable. There's been some games where I sit at the TV and want to rip my hair out, but there's been more games where it's more enjoyable to watch the team. And I'm not going to say.
Yeah, I would say this start has been a nice change of pace because it's actually it's not bad hockey. It's watchable hockey. It's enjoyable hockey. Like I said, there's just games where I honestly think we should have won, but we just haven't found a way to finish. And I feel like that's still also credited to the team is still adjusting to Alain Vigneault's system because you're not going to learn an entire new system overnight. It's going to take a few weeks to get fully adjusted to a brand new system for guys that have been so adjusted to a system like Dave Haxtell's for the past so many years. Getting adjusted to an actual coach in the NHL, in Alain Vigneault, and like it's the same thing with the previous other 2 teams that he's coached for the first time. The New York Rangers, when he first coached them, it took them probably around till Christmas till where they were fully 100% with the system. And hey, that was the year when they went to the Stanley Cup Finals. Not saying anything about the Flyers team right now, but it might take a little bit just till we fully see the Flyers 100% with this system. And the same thing happened with the Vancouver Canucks. It didn't happen overnight. These things take time, and the way the Flyers are playing right now, it looks like they're starting to get more adjusted to the system, and they're playing watchable hockey, which is a good sight to see. And this is turning into one of their better starts since the 2011-2012 season, where they started off was it like 7-3-1 or something like that? I forget the way they started off.
Those lines.
I forget the stats where they started off in that first month and during that season, but they were a good team at that point. So we haven't seen a start like that in a while, and this is a nice change of pace. But the main thing that I want the Flyers to do keep this pace of play. Don't go on this stretch right now and then go lose your next 2-3 games. You can lose a game, but then you have to go on another 2-3 game win streak or get more points in so many consecutive games like they're doing right now. They can't go, oh, we'll win the next 2 and then we'll lose the next 2. We'll win the next 1, lose 2, something like that. They got to keep a nice, consistent pace of play to get out of this mediocrity. That's their goal right now for me. That's what I need to see them to do.
You have any predictions for the weekend?
No.
I don't either. I'm not. I did it last week and they won both games, so I'm sticking with it.
Yeah, same. It's just like like we said in the beginning, I do believe that they can go in Toronto and get a win, but it's just I'm so scared with this Boston game on Sunday that I just don't want to predict anything.
Boston, one, they're at home. Two, they're coming off a game where they should have completely dominated the Red Wings and they lost 4-2.
Yes.
And before that, they lost as well, and they should have lost the game before that at home against Pittsburgh. But they scored late, they tied it. Pittsburgh made some pretty bad defensive plays in that game, which led to goals. But they probably should be on a 3-game losing streak right now. And with the Flyers, the Flyers facing a team on a 3-game losing streak away is just doesn't gel well together.
I completely agree.
It just doesn't. And listen, the amount of times that I will always think that this team can come in and win because that's the mindset in the NHL. Any team can win on any given night.
Mm-hmm.
But personally, I don't think they can win. Do I want them to win? Yes. But I just don't see it.
Yes. And you're going into Toronto, who are currently there on a 3-game win streak right now, so they're playing a lot better hockey as of late. After that shootout win against us, they beat the LA Kings by a score of 3-1, and they also beat the Vegas Golden Knights by a score of 2-1. So they're playing a lot better as of late. So I'm not saying both of these games are not going to be easy whatsoever because these teams are powerhouses in this league. But I feel more confident going into Toronto and getting a win rather than going into Boston and getting a win. Hell, I would take 2 points out of these next 2 games. I will take that.
And honestly, if they don't play bad in Boston and they lose, I'm fine with it. What annoys me the most is when it doesn't look like they give an effort. It doesn't look like they even care. Mm-hmm. Their shifts are bad. The power play's bad. Goaltending's bad. Everything. Those are the games that annoy me because it's not the first time.
Yes.
I know this team is better, and I know this team can play better than the way they do in some of the games that they lose. Mm-hmm. So when they lose like that, that's what annoys me, and that's why I get so mad. But if they play good enough and they give a good effort and they at least are in the game, even if they're not maybe playing great, they're at least in the game. Like the Carolina game, I wasn't as mad as before because they were at least in the game. There were some times where they were, showing it a little bit around late in that second period. They had a few chances with that first line with Farabee, Giroux, and Van Riemsdyk, and Hart was great. And the defense wasn't that great that game, but it was a lot better in the game against Montreal. So, they're taking I'm taking my pros to the cons here. It's kind of just like there's games where they're good, there's games where they're bad, and there's things that are good and there's things that are bad. But if they can come out and play like they did against Montreal, against Toronto and Boston, I think they'll at least have chances to win in both games. I'm not going to guarantee a win, but there's at least a chance.
Mm-hmm. And so, before we wrap up this podcast, Chris, what would you do this weekend? Would you go Elliott Saturday, then Hart Sunday, or would you go Hart Saturday, Elliott Sunday?
I go Elliott Saturday, Hart Sunday.
Yes, I think even though Carter Hart hasn't been playing that long of a stretch so far, I think giving him the night off against Toronto, let Elliott get a game against Toronto, then Hart, because I feel like your best goalie should go up against a better team.
Right.
That's what I feel.
There's a part of me that Alain Vigneault is going to want to put Hart in both games.
Yeah, that is also a possibility. We haven't seen Hart do that in a while. And
we've seen it with Elliott.
We've seen it with Elliott, but we haven't seen it with Hart yet. So who knows if Alain Vigneault is going to do that with Carter Hart right now? Who knows? Maybe he will.
This season with Hart?
I don't think so. I don't think the Flyers pushed him to do that yet.
Yeah, you're right. That is true because he did play back-to-back, but it wasn't on the same night. He played a Tuesday and then a Thursday. And that was his first 2 games of the year when he played Tuesday against the Red Wings and then Thursday against Nashville.
Yeah. He
But
hasn't played a stretch of back-to-back games
Right.
like on two consecutive nights.
yeah, he's had at least a day break in between both.
Yes, so
So
who knows? Maybe we'll see Carter Hart getting his first NHL stretch of back-to-back games in consecutive nights. We might see that. We might see Brian Elliott in one of those games. I take the better chance of seeing Brian Elliott in at least one of those games because who knows what Elaine Pinion's going to do.
oh yeah, definitely.
Yes.
I definitely agree with you that it's most likely going to be Elliott on Saturday night in Toronto, and then Hart Sunday against Boston. But if say they put Elliott in against Boston, do you think they still have a chance?
Oh yeah, Elliott has not been bad this season. He has been good to keep us in games. I don't blame it at all for that game in Pittsburgh where they allowed 7 goals. They left them out to dry.
No. That was completely defense that whole game.
I would say the only game he has looked shaky in was the game against Columbus. Even he still kept us in that game.
Right.
Like I would say that was his worst overall game of the season. He has looked pretty good in all the starts that he's had this season.
Yeah, and he's had some time off, so
yes,
that may help him a little bit.
I completely agree. So, without further ado, to wrap up this podcast, the Flyers have 2 important games coming up, 2 really tough games coming up against the Toronto Maple Leafs and the Boston Bruins this Saturday and Sunday. After going off of this stretch of getting 7 points in their out of a possible 8 in their last 4 games. So hopefully the Flyers can keep this up because I want to see them be more consistent with getting points because that's what matters in the league, right? In the NHL right now. You got to get the wins. You got to get the points where they matter. And this weekend, they definitely have to get at least 2 out of 4 points in my books. It doesn't matter. I don't care who they beat. Just get 2 out of 4 points. I don't care who you beat. Just get 2 points at least. I'll take 3, but get 2. That's all that matters. Get 2. Because these 2 teams are really tough opponents, and I'll be very happy if you just get 2 points. That's all I care about. I know I've said just get 2 points a lot, but I'm stating that, but they have to do it. They have to do it. So, without further ado, we're not going to do predictions for this because it worked better for us last time when we didn't make predictions because they won the last 2 games. So, hopefully, we're not jinxing anything right now by not making a prediction. So, Flyers have a really tough stretch ahead of them. They played really good in their past 2 games against Carolina and Montreal. Let's hope they keep up this good stretch of play against Toronto and against Boston. So the next time you'll hear from us is after recapping these next 2 games actually against the Toronto Maple Leafs and the Boston Bruins. Hopefully the Flyers can at least get 2 points out of those 2 games, so we can actually have a happy podcast and not be mad because they lost against 2 teams. So, without further ado. Hopefully the Flyers can get at least 2 points out of these 2 games, and hopefully, we can see some good hockey. The Flyers actually be consistent, so it'll be a good stretch right here. These will be exciting games, 2 really tough opponents. So, without further ado, I'm Amadeo Gracia. He is Chris Mayer, and we'll see you in the next podcast after these games against the Maple Leafs and the Boston Bruins. See you later, everyone.